The luteal phase is your inner fall. You start to slow down, you start to go inward, and your body needs more sustenance to make it feel its best. Hey friends, my name is Cece. If you're new here, welcome to my little corner of the internet where I share things about my life and the things that I'm learning to inspire you and to help you grow into the best version of yourself. Over the last 2 weeks, we've covered in depth the follicular and the ovulatory phases of the female hormonal cycle. This week, we're going to dive right into the luteal phase, everyone's favorite. And we'll talk about why the luteal phase kind of gets that bad rep. This is where we see most of our PMS symptoms. And really, that's just an imbalance in our hormones. So that's why learning this stuff, learning about your cycle, learning how to support it is so important. So we'll have no negative period symptoms. I know I've said that before, and I'm probably going to say it again because you deserve to have a happy, healthy, painless period and hormonal cycle. So today we'll talk about the same main topics. We'll dive into what is the luteal phase, what's going on with our hormones, what to eat to support the luteal phase, how to work, how to exercise, what your superpower is, and fertility. First things first, what is the luteal phase? The luteal phase starts right after your ovulation and is the longest phase, so typically lasts from anywhere from 10 to 14 days. During the luteal phase, we're gonna meet our next amazing hormone called progesterone. After ovulation, progesterone begins getting released to thicken the uterine lining to prepare a home for the fertilized egg. Then towards the end of the cycle, if the egg has not been fertilized, it will reabsorb into the body and all of the hormones will drop down to their lowest levels right before your bleed. Estrogen is still present in your body. It's just going to be at a lot lower levels, and it does have a small surge somewhere in the middle of your luteal phase to support the uterine lining, but it's much lower than your earlier phases. So to just sum up your hormones in the luteal phase, so at ovulation, we have surge of estrogen, testosterone, and that luteinizing hormone or LH. Right after ovulation, you're going to see a dramatic drop in all three of those hormones. Estrogen and testosterone lay somewhere in the middle here. LH pretty much falls off, and then we'll see a rise in progesterone. And so progesterone will rise throughout the luteal phase. We'll see estrogen kind of take a little rise and then fall, and then right before your period, all of the hormones will fall to their lowest levels. So what to eat in the luteal phase? This is your inner fall. Think dense, complex, warm meals. Your body actually needs more calories during this phase. Ever wonder why you get those extra sugary, carby cravings right before your period? It's actually because our body is burning more calories in our luteal phase. Our metabolism speeds up, therefore burning more calories. Therefore, we need to feed our body more food in this phase. This would not be the time to diet or restrict food. Your body and your hormones need that extra fuel, need that extra nutrients. They need it to function properly and do their job instead of potentially being starved and then panicked and then cortisol and blah and everything goes to shit. But what is important is the kind of calories or the kind of carbs you are putting in your body, right? We don't want to be reaching always for the bag of chips or the brownies or all those things. Of course, in moderation is great, just like everything. But what's really important is nutrient-dense, complex carbohydrates. Think foods like rice, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, or pumpkin. All foods that you find in the fall, hint, makes it very easy to remember what to eat. Ensuring that you're eating enough of these complex carbs will curb any of those sugar cravings you might be having right now. Also, we want to include foods rich in B vitamins, magnesium, and fiber. So think collard greens, celery, cauliflower, onions, radish. These are all really good nutrient-dense vegetables. And then foods high in fiber like chickpeas, apples, pears, We want to get our sunflower seeds and our sesame seeds to help with zinc and helping our liver get rid of that excess estrogen. For cooking methods, you're going to look at roasting and baking, slower, warmer methods of cooking. We're going to want to avoid raw foods like salads or raw vegetables, things like that, because it's harder for the body to digest and break down. So that's why it's really important, these slower cooking methods, these warm, cooked, delicious, nutrient-dense, yummy ball foods. Just try to remember nutrient-dense foods that provide more calories. This is your luteal phase. I've linked a full food list for luteal phase foods. It's hard to say, luteal phase foods. In the description, so go ahead and click that for the full list. Now we'll talk exercise. In the beginning of your luteal phase, you still have a little estrogen and testosterone present, but now you also have progesterone. So you'll still have a little bit of energy, but definitely not as much for like a super hard cardio, kickboxing, or HIIT class. We're gonna wanna avoid those. Opt more for things like strength training or power yoga. And then in the second half of your luteal phase, when your hormones start to fall, you're gonna wanna shift even further away from intense yoga or weight training and shift more into things like lighter yoga, Pilates, things that help your flexibility, maybe is a slower burn, but doesn't get your heart rate up so high and doesn't stress out your body so much. Think lower cardio and slower burn. You don't want to push yourself too hard in workouts, especially in your luteal phase, because like I mentioned in the last video, really working out too hard, especially if your hormones are out of balance, is gonna cause stress, cause too much stress and release too much cortisol. And your body won't go into a fat burning mode. It'll go into a fat storing mode. So you're not actually gonna be doing anything beneficial for your body, and you're actually gonna be more tired. You're not gonna feel as good. You're gonna have PMS symptoms. So just remember, take it slow, listen to your body. After you're done working out, ask yourself how you feel. Check in with your body. Do you feel energized and ready to go? Or do you feel exhausted and depleted and like you need to sit on the couch for the rest of the day? Because depending on that, maybe switch up your workout routine a little bit. Try something different. Try slowing down and maybe even taking a day off if you feel like you need it. Next, we'll talk work and superpowers. In this phase, your energy begins to shift a little bit. It begins to focus and go inward. It's all about completion, nurturing, and tending. You may feel like wanting to get shit done, completing tasks, completing projects, just checking off your to-do list. That feels really, really good in your luteal phase. You're great at thinking, but you might not be so great at communicating. It doesn't mean you can't communicate, of course. It's just maybe not as easy in this phase. If you can schedule, presentations or recording podcasts or things like that in other phases, great. If you can't, if you have to do it in your luteal phase, no big deal. You absolutely can do it. It's just your superpower in this phase is the thinking, is the completion, is getting tasks done. You may want to slow down on your social gatherings or networking. That can feel really draining in the luteal phase and deplete your energy a lot more quickly than it can in other phases. This is the best time to organize, do your finances, check things off your to-do list, and just complete those projects that you got this big idea in your follicular phase, you started executing it in your ovulatory phase, and now in your luteal phase, you're like, all right, let's get this done and get it out there. Last, we'll talk about your fertility. So the luteal phase comes after ovulation, right? The egg got released. Let's say it did not get fertilized in the ovulation phase. It actually gets reabsorbed back into the body, and now there's no longer an egg present. That means you can no longer get pregnant. So you cannot get pregnant in your luteal phase. Your cervical fluid will start to dry up and become less wet. It may not even be present at all. Your temperature will remain higher up until your bleed. So if you remember, that's one of our ovulation cues is our temperature is like kind of floating down here, and then you ovulate, and then your temperature shoots up pretty significantly and will stay high throughout your luteal phase up until your bleed. The fertility awareness method recommends that you wait 3 days after your peak fertile day. So your peak fertile day, again, is that slippery mucus. And then the day after, potentially, you will see your temperature rise. And pretty much right after that as well, you'll start to notice your cervical fluid drying out. And so then you'll have 1 to 3 days of high temperature with significantly drier cervical fluid. You'll know that you are not able to get pregnant anymore and you are free to have unprotected sex. Or if you're trying to get pregnant, you'll know that you gotta wait till next month. The last thing I just want to quickly touch on again is PMS. Your period should have no negative symptoms, right? In this luteal phase, this is typically where we see those negative symptoms: acne, bloating, mood swings, higher anxiety, breast tenderness, and then potentially cramps during your bleed, and whatever other negative symptoms that you might experience. These are all caused by that imbalance of estrogen and progesterone, the imbalance of your hormones. And this is just why living according to your cycle, learning about your cycle and learning what foods are supportive, what kind of exercise is supportive, how to manage your stress, all of these different things are so important to learn to have that pain-free period that we all deserve, that you deserve to have a pain-free period and a pain-free life, and your period shouldn't hinder you at all. You have these superpowers during each phase. You can harness that energy really and just excel in your life with little to no pain, and using those superpowers to your advantage to meet your goals and to reach your dreams. It's literally just so freaking amazing. And through all of this as well, once you start to really listen to your body, you learn how to feed her, you learn how to move her in all the ways that feel good, you start to develop such a deep self-love for yourself because you know how to take care of yourself and you know how to make decisions that make you feel your best. And it just feels so good and so empowering to have such control over your life and over your body and over your fertility and your mood and your pain and everything. It's just amazing. I can't stress that enough. So I really hope that you guys give this a try. Please reach out always with any questions that you might have. I'd be so happy to answer them. And I'll see you all next week for the last phase, our menstrual phase, our bleed. It's going to be a good one, and I'll see you then. Ciao, ciao.